Welcome to a new video. Today I'm going to share with you my Virtual World deck profile. Now Virtual World is a really cool archetype in my opinion. It's a very much what I like to call Foolish Burial the deck because of their abilities to dump so many cards to the graveyard, which are making them very cool and unique playstyle. Now Virtual World got printed in the Megaton, so I think besides Small World, they're kind of very affordable, I think, for most players, and they're not a bad, I guess, semi-meta deck right now, even though the meta kind of changed. But if you want to pick them up, they're not the worst option. But before we jump right into the video itself, I'm going to remind you that if you want to see more videos like this, please consider hitting the subscribe button. It's helped up a ton. Let me know in the comments down below what you think, because I like to hear your comments and hear your thoughts, and give a like to the video if you enjoy it. But without further ado, let's jump right into the video itself. Alright, so jumping right into the list itself for, like I said, Foolish Burial, the deck. We're going to start things first with 3 copies of Lulu, 3 copies of Lao, 3 copies of Lily, and then 3 copies of Gigi. These are the 12 most important cards in your deck when it comes to, like I said, the Foolish Burial part, because all of these share the following effect: that if you control a Virtual World card, you're basically able to send a different type of it from your deck to the graveyard, and then special summon this card from your hand, and then activate the following effect that it has on the field. So for example, let's say I have an activated trap on the field. Now I can send from my deck to the graveyard if I'm trying to summon a GG, send either a spell or a monster, and then special summon it, and then activate its effect. That's kind of how that works. In the case of GG, basically when it's special summon, you get to recover any monster for Virtual World except itself during the end phase. In the case of Lily, it's basically send the card and then you send the third type of card as well, so you get a double Foolish Burial because you Foolish Burial on his initial summon and then Foolish Burial by itself. In the case of Lao, he basically is a monster reborn with his effect negated, but you cannot revive the monsters that you send to the graveyard. So for example, let's say I have a trap, like I said, on the field, and I send a monster to the graveyard, which will be a GG. I cannot revive that said GG, I can only revive something else, like maybe a Lily that I have in my graveyard. So do keep that in mind when you do those combos. Of course, it's also revived with effect negated, but it's pretty important to understand how Roshi Lao work. And then in the case of Lulu, she works like Lily, but instead of sending a second card to the graveyard, you instead search the third type. So like I said again, if you have a trap here and you decide to send a spell, you add to your hand instead, or you add the third type to your hand, which will be a monster, so you can add any monster except itself, which is really good. So this is the 12 lineup monsters that is pretty important to talk about. And then we have the last monster for this archetype, which is kind of like its own thing, which is the 2 copies of Nyan Nyan, which sometimes I do want the third. But Nyan Nyan is basically said that if a level 3 monster is normal or special summon from your field to your field, well, this is in the graveyard, you get to special summon it as a tuner, but banish it when it leaves the field. And then for the rest of the turn, just like all of them, which I forgot to mention, they lock you into level 3 or rank 3s or higher, that's why you don't really have link monsters in the extra deck, because you cannot go into those. And then when this card gets banished when it leaves the field, you get to shuffle any of your banished cards back into the deck, which giving you the ability to recur resources if you want specifically. Sometimes you don't use that effect, depending of course if you have the trap, because sometimes you do want to leave some of your cards banished, but do keep that in mind that this is a really cool effect. And then, for the last monster that we run are 3 copies of Gamma, and then the 1 copy of Driver. Driver is also really great because it's a level 6. It does work with some of your plays. And Gamma does sometimes come up as like if you hard trying to make a crystal win. But mostly the entire idea is that because you have a lot of cards that basically, activate like things like Emergency Teleport, or you have cards that basically just like not activate, but they activate on their summon, and your opponent will try to maybe throw a hand trap on them, or like your cards are like, I don't know. There's some particular cards that you have that are desires, that are the search cards and everything like that before you even summon a monster. So this is just a great way to protect it and get 2 free monsters for free. And the Driver is never dead because it is a level 6, so it works really well with the archetype. And the Gamma, like I said, it's just, if it gets banished, it's whatever. It's another resource that got banished that you can use with your Chuche, which is your trap, so that is really good. Now, you could technically run more hand traps like Nibiru or Ash Blossom, but I found this to be the most impactful hand trap right now for this deck. Of course, it's really depend on your own pocket metagame, but I felt like this just does the most job for me. If you don't want this card, you can run like an Ash, instead, and then like a 3 card for whatever you want to, because Ash is also good because it's a level 3 if you need it, if you need the normal summon. But, you know, it is what it is for whatever you choose to do, so do what you feel your list should, you know, go for. But that does it for the monsters. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Now we'll move on to the spells. So for the spells, first off, 3 Emergency Teleport, 3 Kowloon, and then 3 Shenlong. Basically, Kowloon is your search card for the archetype for your virtual world gates, which is the Quenlong plus the other 2 traps that you have. It does activate effects in a sequence depending on your virtual world gates on the field, 2 or more, but it's mostly never going to happen. It's just an interesting thing that if it does happen, that's a nice, I guess, benefit. And then in the case of Emergency Teleport, just use this to summon the Nyanyan, or if you need to, the Lulu, or even if you need to, the Gamma. It just have some targets, although, like I said, I do want to maybe run the 3rd copy of Nyanyan just because of this card being a 2 now. And then Quenlong is basically just a searcher. Mostly, it does have an effect on field, which you can banish any virtual card from your graveyard, then target 1 face-up monster on the field and negates the effect until the end of the turn, even if this card leaves the field, which is really cool. But mostly what you use this is the graveyard effect, which is basically allowing you to banish this from the graveyard, add any virtual world monster, and then you get to discard a card. You send a card from your hand to the graveyard after you do that search, which is an interesting thing that you get to search first and then the discard, which making this card very, very powerful. So it's an interesting sign at mining, and you also can send the card that you searched if you want that in the graveyard, so you can even search a Nyanyan and then immediately discard a Nyanyan, which is really cool. So these are your consistency cards for the archetype itself, I guess, for being psychics and the archetype. And then for the other consistency card, 3 Desires, 1 Foolish Burial Goods. These are the 2 additional consistency cards I have. Desires is just really, really good. You have free off of almost everything in the deck, and you don't really care about banishing like almost anything. So you just activate Desires, you basically banish the top 10, and then you get to draw 2 additional extenders or things that you want to. You can technically not play these and play Prosperity if you feel like it, but I think Desire is doing the better job. And then Foolish Burial Goods is for people who don't have the access for Small World, but still want to use this as a mini Signet mining, I guess. That kind of just like use this, send the Quenlong, use the Quenlong to search another card, discard another card. You kind of went -1 in a way, but it's still kind of an interesting way to just give you the Lulu if you need to for an additional card. So that's why I decided to run this at 1. And then for the last 4 spells, these are up to personal preference if you want them. 3 copies of Dark Ruler No More, 1 copy of Cold Bite Grave. Cold Bite doesn't really need any explanation. This is a combo deck. We want to basically combo off with no problems. And then Dark Ruler No More is basically budget droplets that I want to have, because I felt like having a blow-up card like this is really, really important in the deck in this format, and just turning off an entire field. There are some decks that just cannot deal with this card. Now, of course, I know the droplets is better, but if you don't have droplets, this is the next best thing, and there are a lot of decks that cannot deal with this. You can also even run Nibiru if you want to instead of the Gamma. That's also an option, but like I felt Nibiru kind of also clash with the archetype in the way of like, you know, if you have to activate it, sometimes it doesn't really work that well, so I felt like Gamma just fit the strategy a little bit more. But, you know, Dark Ruler is also a great, great card. And, yeah, Cold by Grave as well. And that's the spells for the traps. We have the 2 Chuche, the 1 Mu, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, and then the 3 copies of Infinite Permanence. Infinite Permanence is basically the best hand trap this format, so we wanted kind of another hand trap, and Infinite Impermanence fit the bill, so that's why I decided to run it. Then we have the 1 Mu. The first effect doesn't really matter. The second effect is the Matter effect. It's kind of like Quenlong, but instead of searching, you get to special summon a monster from the graveyard, and then again, you get to send a card from your hand to the graveyard as the cost later after the effect was activated, which is a very, very interesting thing. In the case of Chuche, Chuche is basically one of your important cards in the deck. You get to target 1 face-up card on the field, shuffle 2 of your banished cards, virtual world cards with different names from each other from your graveyard back into the deck, and then you get to destroy that card, which is really, really cool. And then during your main phase, you get to banish this card from your graveyard if you want to target 1 virtual world monster you control, increase or decrease its level by 3 until the end of the turn. That's also kind of just works on ranks as well, but mostly the idea here is that you use this as another interruption, or You use this, like, that's why you need 2. You use this sometimes as a combo piece. Now, this is a card that you mostly don't want to banish the 2, so sometimes Desires is a little bit of a problem, but you're mostly going to search before you activate Desires, I guess, unless, of course, you're very, very desperate. And Desires is mostly to draw later to get additional more extenders, I guess, if you need them. So, Chuche, very, very good card. You want to run this card at 2, and Wanmu, you want to run at 1. You don't want to run more than that. I think this is a perfect lineup for these cards. But that does it for the main deck, I guess. That was pretty quick. Now we'll move on into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we have, first off, your variety synchros, which are the 1 copy of Shenshin, the Vermilion Dragon Mech, the Juju, I think that's how you pronounce this one, the Coral Dragon, and then Stardust Charge Warrior. Coral Dragon and Stardust Charge Warrior are basically your draw card. Stardust Charge Warrior is kind of also a good OTK card if you also have Utopia Beyond. And it's just a draw card immediately, and it's not a tuner, unlike Coral Dragon, which if you do need the tuner, you go into that, and then you just use it in another monster to maybe bring out a Shenshin or a Vermilion Dragon Mech, and then you get the draw afterwards. It's also another great card to help you break boards, because you get to discard a card, and then target 1 card your opponent control and destroy it, so that's also really cool. Juju, I think that's how you pronounce this, again, is just a nice card that also help you to send cards to the graveyard by banishing 2 cards with the same type of an attribute but different names, and it also cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects while you have 2 monsters with the same type and attribute and different names, so that sometimes could be a very, very annoying card to get over, which is really cool. Vermilion Dragon Mech is for your other combo line. That is just, if you don't open up the Lulu, which you will see in the second combo, you're able to just use this as a way to see your Lulu, because you will banish the Lulu from the graveyard, and that will give you, after it dies himself, the Lulu back to your hand. And also, just in general, it's another free pop, which is really, really cool. And then Shenshin is just an annoying card that can basically special summon itself every single time from the graveyard, and it's a very annoying macrocosmos. Now, the one card that I wanted to run here is that sometimes I want to run instead of this is the Crocodon. I think Croc Dragon, the level 9 that draw cards, but I'm not always like to run that in the for game 1. I guess it's more of like a side deck card, or like if you really want to, because Crocodon is really, really good with his effect to just give you 2 draw cards, because then you can draw into your blow up going second card, or should I say going game 2 and 3 cards that you put in the sign to the deck. So it's really, really depends, but this is the lineup that I like to go with my good stuff synchros, I guess. And then for the additional lineup of stuff, we have the Ultimate Zolkin, the Crystal Wing, the Muddy Mud Dragon, and then Invoked Kaliga for your package of Ultimate Zolkin, Crystal Wing, and, you know, the Fusion Lock. The point is that you use Ultimate Zolkin, which is really easy to make in this deck, 2 level 6s. You make this, you set any card that you have in your hand in the spell trap zone, you summon this, then you use another 2 monsters to make a level 6, use this and this, and you make the Kaliga, and this is just a very annoying board to break. Now, of course, there are droplets and stuff like that, but if your opponent don't draw into their blow-up cards, then it's really, really annoying to deal with, and I think this is a really, really cool engine. And then for our Xyz, we have 1 copy of Breaksword, 1 copy of Fanfan, 1 copy of Constellar Palladi M7, 1 copy of Utopia Beyond, 1 copy of Gaia Dragon the Thunder Charger, and then 1 copy of Double A Zeus. I think this is a pretty standard lineup when it comes to the Xyz of this archetype. I think there's maybe an argue in either Fanfan or Breaksword, because sometimes I see people cut those cards and run something else, but the rest are kind of not even an argue. Zeus is just Zeus, you can make it with a greater of ease if you have to. Gaia is just to rank on something and then giving you another material to maybe have 2 Zeus procs instead of 1. Utopia Beyond is to end games. Ptolemy M7 is to help you recover your Lulu or any other of your resources, which is really, really good, because this deck really thrives out of the graveyard and can just loop things over and over. It just makes the deck really, really powerful. Fanfan is just another great break boards card, and same goes with Breaksword. These 2 could be changed depending on your format, I guess, but they're still really good in my book. And also Fanfan is another virtual world name if you have to, so that's why I also like to run this card. And Breaksword is just if I need the rank 3, that's kind of the point. But that's pretty much does it for the deck profile as an overall. This is pretty much Virtual World. I think that doesn't really need a whole lot of explanation. It's pretty standard deck. I hope it was really explained for people who don't know how to play the deck, or, just in general want to understand how things work. Because I think it's really important to understand how this deck works. It's pretty budget, I think, right now, except for maybe if you want to play Small World. So if you want to pick this up, this is, I think, a very good budget, I guess, meta-ish deck, although I think the current meta kind of changed around, that this is not one of the strongest decks, but it's still really, really fun. But that does it for the deck profile itself. Let's move on into the combo section. Welcome to the combo section. And in the combo section, I'm going to share with you a few combos that I think are pretty important to know playing as a Virtual World player, if you just picked up the deck, or just in general to understand how the choke points of the deck work, if you just want to play against it, or just trying to understand how the deck works in general. And for the first combo that we're going to basically start with, we're going to start with the standard card combo of Lulu, Kowloon, and any set card, which will allow you to end up on a pretty awesome board. So now let's get started. So starting things off, we're going to activate, of course, the Kowloon. We're going to use the Kowloon effect to activate directly from our deck the Chuche, which I'm putting here just because of, glaring problems. Then we're going to use the Lulu effect in hand to send the Quailong to special summon itself, and then add the copy of Gigi from your deck to your hand. We're then going to use Gigi's effect to basically target any of these two cards. It doesn't really matter. We're going to special summon it and send another copy, of course, of Quailong to the graveyard, because the point of this is that you can technically send Nyan Nyan right now if you target this, but the point is basically set up for an additional, what I like to call, follow-up turn in this particular combo, so that's why we're sending the other copy of Quailong. Then we're going to take these two, which are together level 6, and we're going to make the Stardust Charge Warrior, which will net us a free draw. We're then going to use the effect of Quailong to banish itself, add the Roshi, and then we're going to discard our random discard. Now, one thing I would say before we move on is that the reason why we kind of just draw the card and then search the Lao Lao is because if we do that and we just specifically draw already with our free draw into the Lao Lao, then we can just use this to search something else instead of this and then discard another card from our hand and maybe get additional extenders. But because this is a set combo, we don't really think about that like that. But just to let you understand how the deck works, this is how you need to think about it, that you want to draw to maybe get the card for free, or, without searching it, and then use the searcher card to search something else, which I think will be a little bit better. But now we have the Lao Lao in hand. We're going to target the Chuche, and we're going to special summoning itself after sending the Nyan Nyan from our deck to the graveyard, which then will trigger its effect to special summon the Gigi, which will trigger the Nyan Nyan effect to special summon itself out of the graveyard. We take these two because these two are two level 6 monsters, one tuner and one non-tuner, and we're going to make Ultimate Zolkin. Then use our set card, set it to our side of the field, and summon a Crystal Wing directly from our extra deck. Then we have one level 3 tuner because of her effect from the graveyard, the one Gigi. And we're going to Synchro Summon into Muddy Muddragon. Now, in this particular point, Lulu effect, or should I say Nyan Nyan effect, could trigger to shuffle back the Quailong. However, you shouldn't really do that because we do have the copy of Chuche, which can already just shuffle these back into the deck. And if we'll do that and we don't have another way to banish a card, we basically give up on an interruption. So we shouldn't use the effect of Nyan Nyan here. We're just going to leave it as the way that it is. Now we're going to use the effect of Muddy Muddragon, and we're going to use it and Ultimate Zolkin to summon the Kaliga. And then during the end phase, we're going to add to our hand the Lulu to the effect of Gigi, and then we're going to pass the turn for our opponent. So basically, in this end board, we ended up with basically this card set is like I said, it's technically imperm for this combo, but it could be any set spell trap that you can have. So it can be even just a useless card. But the point is, you end up with a Crystal Wing, a Kaliga, a Chuche, and also follow up with the Lulu in hand, and also two additional cards that you already have, which you're also going to draw another card during the draw phase. And also we have the Quenlong in our graveyard, the one that we already sent here, so will give us a very, very good follow-up in later parts of the game, which is really cool. So that does it for combo number 1. Let's move on into combo number 2. So for combo number 2 is going to be the Vermilion Dragon mech route to basically shows you that you can even turn the most unplayable hand into something very, very useful to get to yourself the Lulu. And then you can start doing your plays. So for this particular combo, you're going to see like what I mean, as I said in the deck profile, that virtual worlds use a lot of cards in your hand, because for this particular combo, you need to have Lily, you need to have Quenlong, you need to have a card that you can set, and you also need to have a random discard. So this particular combo uses a lot of resources, because that's how the virtual world work, and essentially you are going to get back the Lulu to your hand, I guess, during the end phase anyway. So it's kind of you having only used 3 cards, but you know how virtual world work. It's sometimes like that. But now, let's get started. So starting things off, we're going to activate the Quenlong, because we kind of have to. And then we're going to use Lily effect, targeting the Quenlong, sending the Chuche, and then we're going to special summoning it, and send also the Lulu. We're then going to use the Chuche effect, banishing itself, special summon the Lulu, and then we're going to use the effect of it to send our random discard. We're then going to take these two, and we're going to synchro summon into Vermilion Dragon Mech, and then we're going to use Vermilion Dragon Mech effect to banish the Lulu and pop itself. His effect will trigger off and add back to our hand the Lulu. We didn't use Lulu's effect yet, and we're going to use this effect to turn the Quenlong to send from our deck to the graveyard the Chuche, special summoning it, and then add to your hand the GG. GG effect will target the Lulu, special summoning itself after sending it to our graveyard the Quenlong. We're then going to do just like combo number 1, synchro summon these two into Stardust Charge Warrior, and get to our hand a random card that we drew. We're then going to use the effect of our own Quenlong into our graveyard, not the one on the field, obviously. And we're going to add to our hand the Roshi and discard the random card. Just like combo number 1, this is kind of the same idea, that you want to get the draw before, and then you want to search if you didn't draw the card. Next up, we're going to use Roshi effect to target the Quenlong, again, special summoning itself after we also send to our graveyard the Nyan, and uses effect to special summon the GG, which will trigger Nyan effect to special summon itself. Then we're going to use these two, because these two are level 6s, and we're going to make the Ultimate Zolkin, set the random card, and get to our side of the field the Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. Then in this particular case, while we can go into the normal Caliga play, I'm actually going to do something different just for fun, because we still have the Chuche in our graveyard. So I'm going to banish the Chuche, and we're going to turn one of these monsters into a level 6. It doesn't really matter which. And we're going to synchro summon these both into a QB Shenshin, which I think is a better card, at least in my opinion, because it's giving you a better follow-up. And then you can also shuffle back into your deck the copy of Chuche, so you will have a better chance to drawing it in a later turn. And that's how we're going to end our end board. Now, of course, like I said, you could leave the Chuche in graveyard and shuffle something else and instead get the Caliga, but I felt like just showing the other route is also a nice option, so that's why I decided to go with the Shenshin instead. But that does it for combo number 2. Pretty simple forward, just to understand that you can get to your Lulu, but it is sometimes a little bit of a thing that you're going to use a lot of cards in your hand. But like I said, that does it for combo number 2. Let's move on to combo number 3. So for a third combo number 3 is the Anti-Nibiru combo, and it's the combo that requires you to open up with Lily, Quenlong, and then any random discard. This is basically, like I said, the Anti-Nibiru combo. So now let's get started with it. So starting things off, obviously we're going to activate the Quenlong immediately, and then we're going to use Lulu effect, targeting it, sending to your graveyard specifically the Nyan, and then adding to your hand after special summoning the Chuche. Then we're going to use Lily effect, targeting the Lulu, sending into your graveyard both the Quenlong and another copy of Chuche. We're then going to use the effect of Chuche in the graveyard, targeting the Lily, making it into a level 6, and then we're going to basically synchro these off into Ultimate Zolkin and set our Chuche to basically special summoning from our extra deck the Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, basically already on our 4th summon, which is really good. Now we still have follow-up with other things that we can do because of our Quinlong into the graveyard, so you don't really have to worry that much that you will not be able to do anything. But now what we're going to do is that we're going to use Quinlong. We're going to banish it from our graveyard onto our hand the Roshi or Lao Lao. And then we're going to use the effect, of course, to discard the random card from our hand, finally to the graveyard. We're then going to use Lao Lao effect, targeting the Quinlong in our side of the field, special summoning it after, of course, sending to our graveyard the GG. Then we're going to use this effect to special summon from our graveyard the Lily, and then we're going to take both of these cards to Xyz summon into Ptolemy M7. Then we're going to detach any of these, and we're going to add that GG to our hand to be then used as another extender. We're then going to use GG effect, targeting the Quinlong, sending the Chuche, and special summoning itself, and that will trigger Nyan Nyan effect to basically special summon itself out of the graveyard. We're then going to use Nyan Nyan and GG, synchro both of these off into a Stardust Charge Warrior, which will give us a random discard, a random card which will be used as a discard. Of course, I forgot about Nyan Nyan being banished, and then you can shuffle any of these back into your deck. I most of the time like to shuffle Chuche just because I like the additional Chuche just in case. So you shuffle back the additional Chuche, and then we're going to use the one move effect Engrave, banish it, and then special summon the Lulu in our graveyard and discard the random card from our hand. And then synchro these two off into, well, Shenshin. And that's how we're going to end our board. So first and foremost, we have the Chuche, we have the Crystal Wing, we have the Shenshin, just like combo number 2. Like I said, combo number 2 also can do combo number 1, but I decided to do it like this. We have kind of that, and then plus the Chuche, because the second combo didn't really have the Chuche. But the point is like we have that, and we also have the Ptolemy M7. If it survives, we also get another recovery, which I forgot to mention, that you also get back to your hand the Lulu due to the effect of GG during the end phase. So basically, we also have another way to maybe get another recovery card with this, and then you also have additionally the additional card in hand, and the card you're going to draw during the next draw phase, giving you 4 cards that you may be able to basically do plays again, which is really, really cool. And you also have still 3 cards to return to the graveyard with the effect of Chuche, even though we returned 1 Chuche from our graveyard back into the deck. So, yeah, that's pretty much does it for combo number 3. Let's move on to the final combo, which is combo number 4. So our fourth and final combo, is going to be basically a very basic combo, but I still think very, very important to know. It's kind of like a bonus combo that I kind of just wanted to share because I like it, and that is the 1 copy of Gigi, the 1 copy of Lily, and then 2 random discards to basically do your combo. Now I'm going to say this right now is that this is kind of ending in the combo number 1 setting, but you have no follow-up like combo number 1. That's why I wanted to save this to the end. So let's get started. Start things off, we're going to normal summon the Gigi, use the Lily effect, and targeting the Gigi, sending to our graveyard the Zhenlong, special summoning it, and then sending the Chuche. It can also be the 1 Mu, it doesn't really matter, but I want to start like that. We're then going to use the Quinlong effect, banish itself, add to our hand the Lily, and then discard 1 of our random discards. We're then going to use Lily to target any of these, it doesn't really matter. Then send to our graveyard the 1 Mu, special summon the Lulu, and then add to our hand the K-Loon, and we're not going to use the K-Loon yet because we want to use it as a set card. We're then going to use the Chuche in our graveyard, targeting our Lulu, turning it into a level 6, and then take the level 6 tuner and the level 6 non-tuner to create, or should I say synchro summon to Ultimaya Zolkin. Use Ultimaya Zolkin effect after we'll set the Kailoon and special summon the Crystal Wing. And then we finally activate our Kailoon to basically activate for our deck the second Chuche. Then we're going to activate the effect of 1 Mu in our graveyard, banish it, special summon the Lulu, and discard the random discard. And then we're going to do just like combo number 1, turn these 2 into Muddy Mud Dragon, use these 2 for fusion summon of Kaliga. Now, like I said, in this particular combo, the end board is pretty much the same as combo number 1, but the problem is we don't have another Kuei Long in our graveyard, and we didn't use GG effect to add to our hand the Lulu. So we have a very, very much worse follow-up, but it's still a very, very important combo to know using Lily and GG, just to let you understand how the deck work. But that does it for combo number 4, and does it for the combo section. Now let's move on into the next deck choices. Alright, so for the next deck choices, this is just going to be the same thing that I did with Thunder Dragons. We're going to bring out the same options, which are going to be Vendriz, Magistus, Lyra Lusk, and the last one was, I forgot, should appear on screen. I don't know why I forgot it for a second, but we have 4 options for you to choose for next week. Oh yeah, Earth Machine. That's one. I don't know why I forgot it for a second, but the point is, you can choose from any of these 4 archetypes to basically be for next week. So Earth Machine, Lyra Lusk, Magistus, and Vendriz are the 4 options that you have. I will cover these all in the end anyway, but the point is, which one you want to see first regardless, this is one I want to hear from you guys. So let me know in the comments down below. I'm not going to count again people who are just going to vote again. Don't worry about it. If you already voted, you don't need to vote again. For anybody who didn't vote yet, let me know in the comments down below what you want. But yeah, that's pretty much does it for the videos and does it for the deck profile as an overall. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you do. Let me know in the comments down below what you think again on the video as an overall. What do you think I missed? What do you think are like better tech options for Virtual World? Because it's a very interesting deck that change from time to time in its main deck and extra deck, and I'm pretty interested to see, although there are some things that are set in stone, there are particular things that change from time to time depending on different lists, even though there are some particular things that are just pretty much very well known. But that's it for the video. Hope, like I said, you enjoyed. Remember, creativity is the key in this game. Have a good day, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.